think you guys pretty much correctly in your talk with the Texan with the cowboy hat, and also in your talk with Kimmy there. I think you guys pretty much correctly identified that it is not a battle flag in the same way that the Confederate battle flag is. In fact, the symbol, as far as I know, and I could be wrong about this, but I believe that the symbol was actually never the flag of Japan. I think that the actual flag of Japan has always been the white field with the red dot, and the red sun with the rays coming out from the background has never actually been the flag of Japan. So it actually predates Meiji era, and I believe it was a good luck symbol originally, and you can see it in prints from the 19th century. Anyway, so that's about that. As far as the headband goes, I think this guy, who I don't know, so I hesitate to criticize him too much, but I think that this guy who's wearing the headband, I don't know if he's ignorant about history, but certainly he should be aware that because of the way Japanese culture is now, he's almost certainly going to make people uncomfortable wearing that thing. However, I'd like to suggest a different way of looking at the problem. So here's Nanzen-ji Temple. If you haven't been here before, you might recognize this from the movie Lost in Translation, right? Anyway, very famous temple in Kyoto, here in Kyoto. So my perspective on the headband, yeah, I think that this guy probably should be aware that what he's doing is going to make people uncomfortable, but I think that Japanese people should reconsider whether or not their own reaction to seeing the headband is really the appropriate one. So if you're Japanese and you see somebody wearing that headband, maybe what you should be thinking about is the fact that there was somebody who was your enemy who's now adopted a symbol of people who used to be killing his compatriots. I think that's a pretty amazing reversal and change of perspective. So in a sense, although the headband itself may remind people of a time that they would like to forget, seeing an American wearing it, I would think would actually reinforce the idea that people are able to come together again after the war, that there isn't an ongoing conflict, a sort of low-level Cold War between the U.S. and Japan. So actually, the people who used to be very opposed to the country have now changed their perspective significantly and love the country. So that's one way of looking at the headband. And as for the actual groups, the special attack units, I have to say that, again, although I don't want to defend war, probably within the context of that time period, the special attack unit was the best to come out of the military at that time. So the special attack units, some people might call them suicide bombers, but that's not really what they were, right? So they were not terrorists. They were not killing civilians. They were just going out and fighting. They were just soldiers. And if they hadn't been engaged specifically in the task of bringing down battleships by crashing their planes into them, they would have been trying to drop bombs on those battleships. So what they were doing was still fighting. It was really no different from a normal pilot, except that they had decided that in order to guarantee a victory against the enemy, they were going to give up their lives. So I don't see any way to see that as anything but a positive given the context of the time period and also of the war. So just to summarize my 3 points here, the flag that's being used as the ensign of the Japanese Navy has a pretty long history. It predates the Second World War. I don't think it's fair to compare it to the Confederate battle flag, which was designed specifically for that conflict, the Civil War, with the intention of representing people who were basically fighting to maintain their culture, which included slavery. The ensign of the Navy is a totally different situation. I can understand why it represents something to some people, but again, as I pointed out at the beginning of the video, there are people who associate the swastika just with the Nazis, but nobody says that the Buddhists should stop using the swastika just because it was also used by Nazis. I mean, that's stupid. So the second point is that, well, I understand why people would be upset seeing an American wearing the headband just because they don't want to be reminded of the conflict between America and Japan in the past. You should consider that seeing an American wearing that headband is actually a sign of the fact that the two countries could come together after the conflict and didn't have to maintain poor relations despite our history of war. And then, of course, the third point is that the tokutai, although they seem really horrible to us in some ways, I think we have to consider that they are not the same as current-day terrorist suicide bombers. They are really engaged in something quite different, and the spirit of what they were doing, I think, was kind of admirable given the context that they were operating under.